All right, back again. All right, this time I have shelved Bullszat for the time being, and the reason for that is actually I saw this guy, Great Liar, asking for opponents, and when I joined with Bullszat, he said, I'd prefer not to play against that deck, thank you very much, and conceded. So I rejoined his game using my old standby stalwart and in the Paint Artist, which has been updated a little bit. It's definitely not completely up to date compared to some of the more modern, the red, green, and black, red decks that I've been working on with Nate and company. But it's still very, very powerful deck, still very effective against a lot of strategies, and surprisingly robust against some of the most powerful decks in the format just by nature of the fact that it runs so many counter spells. And you actually can often, if they don't run away with the game, you can usually stop the game-winning combos pretty effectively with the suite of counters. But I'm not running cards like Power Blast and Vandal and Red Elemental Blast in this deck, and I'm also not running a Critical Mass of Artifact Kill, so a little bit vulnerable to some of those strategies anyway. And this is actually the second game that we played, because I lost the first game with Nin. I'm not sure if I want to cover that game. It's fairly short actually, but it basically amounted to him getting Mana Crypt on turn 2 into Glendolena Archmage, following that up with Stony Silence, and then flashing out a Notion Thief when I was activating Nin to shoot something for 4 or 5 cards when I was tapped out. And yeah, that was pretty much GG. And given the fact that it made him gain a bunch of life, made me lose a bunch of life, and he pumped a bunch of his creatures up too. It was just, yeah, I mean, it was basically over. I killed one of my own guys, let my opponent draw 5. That's generally not going to be a winning strategy. So I scooped up that game, went on to another game against him, and this one turned out to be quite a barn burner. It's an excellent game and more than worthy of a video. So let's get started. Opening hand, it's got that critical Vandal Blast in it, which means I can stave off the Crypt or Soul Ring on turn 1 or turn 2, which is kind of all I really asked for Nin alongside mana, because this deck doesn't really care all that much about its opening hand. It's not like Bullszat or Minsk and Boo, where you're just trying to get a bunch of fast mana and do something degenerate right at the start. It's a very classical draw-go deck for those who aren't as familiar with it, because I haven't featured it on the channel for a while. But basically, mono-blue deck, splash of red for artifact interaction, primarily a little bit of removal, and a very linear and incremental strategy to just get further and further ahead with activations of the commander until they're completely locked out of the game via a critical mass of counterspells. So, let's see what's going on here. Don't remember who's going first this game, actually. Okay, it looks like it's me. I'm leading with an island over the Prismatic Vista, mainly because you kind of want to just keep drawing lands with this deck when you don't need to thin the deck, when there's no imperative to do it. And pulling a land out of the deck via Prismatic Vista means that I have fewer lands in the deck. Plus, if he's able to kill the Shivan Reef, and I use Prismatic Vista to go fetch an island, as I certainly would, then I might not have any red mana for a little while, and that would suck. So leaving the Prismatic Vista back gives me the flexibility to go fetch blue or red, depending on how the game unfolds. Particularly because I got a strip mine too, and often when you strip mine somebody early, they kind of just want to strip mine you right back. All right. Flooded Strand. And no further play. That's quite excellent. All right, so I got Wash Away in hand. This is a recent addition, actually. I've been very, very impressed by this card, just as decks have leaned more and more on fast commanders, 2 and 3 mana range commanders, and this is also so good for something like someone going all in on Tevesh Zat. 1 blue mana to counter a spell. Tevesh Zat is just absolutely awesome. So I think the card is good enough, and I mean, at its worst case situation, it's just a 3 mana counter, which isn't a deal breaker anyway. So I quite like it. All right. And I'm actually gonna play Nin here. I didn't really see a reason to play out Grim Monolith. I kind of just wanted to get Nin the Paint Artist on board and just continue to ramp mana. A lot of time people will also just kind of start panicking once this comes into play, and they'll start tapping out thinking that they're losing on board, which gives them the ability to play Dak Fade, which is really the thing I want to resolve anyway, assuming that he's playing counter spells. And I think I did see at least 1 counter spell in the first game that we played. So just getting Nin on board allows me to just continue developing mana and eventually play that Grim Monolith later and use it to draw a bunch of cards. So he gets Rafine's Tower. That's the Grixis. Not Grixis, sorry. I'm on Esper land. Okay, he's playing Tundra. And he taps to cast Ponder. Glad to see that. Actually, this sort of clears the way for... and then he casts Serum Visions afterward too. It absolutely clears the way. And he's running these cards, of course, too. Yeah, they're pretty good with his commander, I suppose. Just little drain lives. Lots of cantrips. All right, got another island. no temptation to strip mine right now. I'm really just waiting to develop, and I think it's way more important to get the Dak Faden online here while he's tapped out than it is to strip mine him and kill the Rafine's Tower. If he doesn't do anything on turn 3 impactful, I'll definitely kill the Rafine's Tower and cast the Grim Monolith next turn. But with Wash Away in my hand, I kind of actually want him to walk his commander into this anyway. Anytime you can trade 1 blue mana for a 4 mana spell, you're coming out well ahead in terms of tempo. So I draw with Dak Faden. Urza's fantastic draw here. And the rest of my hand, I don't know, Vandal Blast, pretty nice to have, but I have mixed feelings about it, obviously, since I don't see any artifacts yet. And the fact that he didn't play any artifacts on turn 2, any of the 2-mana artifacts, means that he may just be running the usual suite of Crypt, Soul Ring, Vault, and maybe a Arcane Signet or something. So I think that means that I throw away those 2. Yeah. Oh, I guess I did discard the Vista. I decided to hang on to Muddle the Mixture, I think, because I saw Stony Silence in the last game, and Muddle gives me the ability to at least go get one of the bounce spells in mid-game to get rid of Stony Silence if it does come out. All right. Let's see what he's got turn 3. Yeah, the other reason, obviously, to throw away Vandal Blast is, of course, I have a much, much better answer to artifacts anyway. So he's going to cast Frantic Search. More stuff to pair with his commander, I suppose. And he throws away this thing, I guess, is a magic card. So is that. It's another thing. Like, I did some complaining in my last video, and certainly this whole alternate art bullshit thing where there's just tons and tons of cards and you have no idea what they do. Really not a fan of that either. I'm having lunch with Mark Rosewater next Thursday, and I intend to give him a piece of my mind about this insidious trend. I don't know how much he actually has even any say in it. It's probably ordained by other people at the company, and Mark just works in, obviously in R&D and design and stuff. Probably doesn't even make these kind of decisions, but I think he needs to hear it more anyway. So he casts Rafine Scheming Seer, 1/4 flyer with Ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Draw X cards, then discard X cards. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's pretty damn powerful for a 3-mana guy. 1/4 that grows every turn while drawing cards. I've never actually seen Rafine before, but it is pretty damn good, other than the fact that it's an Esper cost. I mean, of course, I'm glad it's not something like Zur, but this thing's pretty nasty. It can just grow and grow, and it definitely threatens Dak Faden, because Dak Faden's only at 4 counters right now. All right, so I get Wasteland. I'm going to draw with Dak again. I get Mana Vault and Basic Island. And so I've got these multiple accelerators here. Yeah. I'm just going to throw away Island and Grim Monolith, since Mana Vault's just so much better than Grim Monolith most of the time. And I decide I'm just going to run out Urza here. And, of course, I'm not tapping the Mox Sapphire construct here because I want to be able to wash away. I'm kind of just expecting him to run his commander out on this turn. And it'd be really, really nice to be able to wash it away, and then I can double strip mine him, set his mana back a ton. And even though he's going to be attacking with Rafine, he's just going to be so far behind in tempo, I should be able to lock up the game with Nin activations. Unfortunately, the Rafine flies. So there's 4 mana. I figure he's going to run his commander out right now. And to my great surprise, he just flashes out a Notion Thief, rather than waiting for me to either activate Nin the Pain Artist or draw 2 cards with Dak Faden. It's very strange. I mean, I guess he's sort of figuring he just wants to shut off Dak Faden right now, and I can understand that, because I'm tapped out right now, and maybe he's just worried about me countering stuff. So he figures that the Notion Thief just needs to get into play, of course. And then the Pain Artist is pretty good at handling Notion Thief anyway, if you just cast it as a sorcery. But he does get to attack here. And this thing goes to 2/6. He discards an Omen of the Sea. Scry 2, draw card. That's pretty interesting. All right, Dak's down to 3. And I get Whir of Invention. Fucking awesome. Yeah, and I would have Whirred right now. If one of these were an island, I feel really dumb for discarding the island last turn. Because if I had the ability to Whir, let's see what happens. If I go play if I had not played Wasteland, I play another land, I cast Mana Vault. And that gives me 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. Yeah, it's enough mana to Whir for 3 and use the and use Vidalcan Shackles, and I would have been able to steal Notion Thief with Shackles and then Dak Faden him to just make him discard 2 cards from his hand. It's absolutely brutal, and probably would have locked the game up for the most part right there, because, I mean, what does he do against the Vidalcan Shackles when it's already tapped and holding his guy? Unfortunately, I played Wasteland last turn and discarded the island, so a bit of a punish there, which I regret. And now, because of the Notion Thief, I actually can't make a couple of the plays that I was intending to do. I can't use Dak Faden, and I actually have to just use Nin right now to blow up Notion Thief. This also makes, of course, his Connive weaker a little bit. I guess he wouldn't attack. And I guess he probably would attack. He'd probably attack as a 4-2. But I'm able to kill that thing off. It does allow him to draw a card, but better than being unable to do anything. And I draw Copy Artifact and Preordain. Both are pretty nice, but Copy Artifact, I don't really have anything of consequence to copy other than the Construct token. And Preordain, not feeling like it really does a lot right now. So I'm just going to throw both of those away and just dig a little deeper into the deck. I have to be very tentative with how I click here. I don't want to jump ahead too much. And I decided that this is probably right about the perfect time to strip mine. So I'm going to get rid of Rafine's Tower. Considering he played Field of Ruin last turn, this sort of feels like this may be the last card in his hand, or last land in his hand. And getting him off double blue feels like it's probably pretty effective. And I still have the ability, I'm going to actually attack with Urza now. And I do have the ability to still cast either Muddle in an emergency or at least Wash Away. Right now this thing's at a 2. Yeah, I suppose I could have gone and just Word for Vidalcan Shackles and stolen Rafine. That wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, actually. In retrospect, it might have made sense to do that, because it would have protected Dak Faden also. But I really wanted to get the Notion Thief off the board and just draw cards with Dak, and I couldn't have done that. So he's going to go and Field of Ruin to protect his land right here, probably just to protect, you know, the Tundra or something. And so, of course, Wasteland goes away. I can go get one of my many islands. And he gets a basic Plains. Oh, God, I hate this card so much. Stony Silence. He had it in the last game, too. It is just so backbreaking against most of the decks that I play. Particularly against Bullszat. Bullszat has, like, almost no outs against it. Doesn't have bounce. You have Feed the Swarm as a way to deal with Stony Silence, and it really, really guts your mana production a lot. He's going to be able to attack and connive again. No, he did not connive. He's still at 2, but now the idea of worrying doesn't make any sense since he's got Stony Silence. And I draw mana artifacts. Wonderful. There's so many in this deck. All right, draw 2, draw another mana artifact. Now keep in mind, I do have Urza in play, so this is like a 4 mana Mox Sapphire. This is actually a Mox Sapphire that can damage you. And I don't know, I kind of, maybe I should have hung on to it, but I kind of like the rest of my hand. Even though Whir is not great, I figure that I'm not under a ton of pressure, and eventually I will be able to draw a bounce, and then Whir and the ability to get Vidalcan Shackles should really make the game a lot easier to win. So with that in mind, I decided to keep the Whir, and I just toss both the artifacts. It is nice to have Fierce Guardianship, though. That allows me to tap out on my Nin. All right, those 2 go away. I'm not going to do anything here. This just damage is totally irrelevant. So I'm just going to muddle right now, and I'm going to go get Mana Drain. Just to threaten doing something and maybe prevent him from casting anything for a little while. I mean, obviously he doesn't know I have both Wash Away and Fierce Guardianship too. But this thing continues to attack. He actually discards Vampiric Tutor, and this is going to be enough to kill off poor Dak Faden. All my struggles to use Dak. Yeah, in retrospect, I think if I were to replay this game, I think I probably would have Word for 2, and I would have just snagged the, I would have gotten Vidalcan Shackles and grabbed this thing right away. That would have protected Dak Faden. Sure, I wouldn't have been able to use Dak for a little while, but I could just destroy Dak Faden. I mean, I could destroy the Notion Thief the following turn with Nin the Pain Artist, and then both Dak would work, and I'd have his Rafine, and I could start shooting the Rafine and growing it and stuff and cycling. So probably a mistake to do that. Still a little bit pinched on mana here. I draw a 1 mana Mox Sapphire. Back to him. He's got this Hall of the Storm Giants in play now, which is interesting. He plays a Verdant Catacomb. He's definitely got plenty of mana. Let's see how many lands are already in the graveyard too. Alright, Watery Grave. He's just going to continue to attack me. I love having Fierce Guardianship in my hand here. It just protects me from so many shenanigans. Since I'm going to be tapping out an Ancestor, or casting Tidings off of Urza's 4 health. So shooting Urza for 3. He starts to tap mana. thinking, okay, well, what does he have? Notion Thief is dead. Oh, he's got Opposition Agent. Okay, well, that doesn't do anything. I think he may not have understood how it works. You're not supposed to just flash that out for no reason. But again, maybe he's just concerned that I'm tapped out and he sees it as an opening. I draw another 1 mana Mox Sapphire. So glad I have Urza this game. All right, that thing's not worth casting, so it's going to go away. So now it's time to just run out these cheap artifacts. I can tap that for 1 blue, cast Divining Top. This also does make the construct a 4/4, which is nice because I needed to challenge the Opposition Agent. And since I can't tutor with that thing in play, I don't want to have to shoot it for 2. I'm still just playing more land. They both come in, and he connives and pumps this thing up to 4. This is an easy trade with the construct. Since I got that thing basically for free, it does make a mana, but at the end of the day, yeah, I'm actually going to tap it too here. And actually, yeah, I think I do wind up tapping it, since it's going to be dying anyway. I'm just going to draw 1 card off of the body. I'm still have both Wash Away and Mana Drain going here. All right, so trade. I take another 3. He is down to 2 cards, so not too scary. I'm starting to build up quite a bit of mana here. Draw a 2 mana thing that makes 1. Just going to pass back. This is just what Nin kind of does. Just plays the draw go game. Even under pressure, you can often just develop mana and eventually just start drawing so many cards a turn off of one of the higher health creatures in the deck that you can just pull so far ahead they cannot do anything. And he sees the fact that he can't compete with me drawing 3 extra cards a turn, so he's going to just go all in on this Hall of Storm Giants plan. Kind of a cool card. If you control 2 or more lands, it enters the battlefield tapped. So it's a weird check land, but it makes a 7/7 with Ward 3 for an activation of essentially costs 7, makes 7/7. So in response to him doing this, I'm going to cast Factor Fiction, and I'm doing this probably just to look for specifically Cryptic Command. Since he's tapping down to 1 blue mana, I could Cryptic Command, tap both these guys, and bounce Stony Silence. He wouldn't be able to recast it, and then all my artifacts would actually be working properly. And I get 3 more land, Condescend, and Snapcaster. He makes the absolutely perfect split, recognizing that I probably just want Snapcaster more than anything since the rest of this is fairly junky. And of course I do take the Snapcaster Mage, and I'm grateful to see 4 useless cards go to the graveyard. And now they're both coming in, and he gets to connive. Bit of a strange choice, actually, where he, I don't know why he doesn't connive the flyer and instead just makes Hall of Storm Giants bigger, since I'm probably going to have to be chump blocking that scene anyway, and of course I just take 12 here, it doesn't really matter. I'm more interested in just drawing off of Urza anyway. So I draw 2 during end step. Boom, come on deck. Amnesia, I like it, I like it. Just need to draw a bounce spell now, and Stony Silence is gone. I got a counter spell, so just loading up on good effects here. I just need to solve the Stony Silence and probably this thing Rafine, and then I'm good. All right, so I'm just gonna throw out a chump blocker here. I'm casting this main step because I just want to cast Ponder. It's just the most cheap. I could cast the Factor Fiction, but my hand's already pretty overloaded. Ponder's just way more efficient right now since it's free. At least free for a card, and I get Fire, Ice, and Lapse. I'm going to put the Lapse on the bottom. I have plenty of counters now, and Fire Ice at least holds off a big attack for a turn. So I'm just going to cast the Talisman of Creativity, and I do not deem the Coalition Relic worth casting here. So that's just going to go to the graveyard. Definitely do not need it. It's interesting that he just refuses. I guess he just decides that playing his commander just doesn't do enough right now, and that he needs to just hope I have no answer to an enormous creature. It doesn't have trample, though, which is pretty important. But I do respect this sort of beatdown plan. It's often like the right thing to do. Just at least attack with something you know that might be effective and force your opponent to react. If he plays his commander, he can't attack. I might not even care about his commander at all, and he misses out on a lot of potential damage. So with this in mind, I'm going to ice the Rafine. I have to ward, of course, but just to draw a card and tap it, so he can't do his pump up his guy or do the draw 2, discard 2. That's what I'm more concerned by. And in comes Hall of the Storm Giants. It does still get to do it one turn. He throws away Arcane Signet, and I cannot take 10 right now, so I'm just going to just chump old with Mr. Old Snapcaster Mage. But you can just see how much mana the Nim deck starts to produce once the commander starts to crank. Alright, Cascade Bluffs. I'm just going to cast Impulse main step here to see what we get. Ooh, hell yeah. Two more artifacts. But Cryptic Command is perfect. It's the absolute perfect card that I need right now. I was looking for it a couple turns ago, actually. Yeah, and I think about casting Cryptic Command. I realize it actually makes more sense to do it during the attack step, just to tap him out. Or tap out his creatures. If he sinks 6 mana into the Hall of the Storm Giants and I just tap it, it's so brutal. Sure enough. Okay, so in response to that, I'm going to be tapping all creatures and bouncing the enchantment. And he does have 2 mana here. Arcane Denial, but I mean my hand is just stacked at this point. I'm just going to mana drain Arcane Denial, just have a bit more mana for my plans on the next turn. Now he's down to 2 cards in hand. Stony Silence back in his hand, which is great. Go get a Volcano. Shoot Urza to draw 1. I got a Brainstorm. So first things first. I'm going to cast Whir. And of course this is for 3 to get Vidalcan Shackles. I am down to 14, so this thing is putting quite a bit of pressure on me, but I of course have plenty of islands now to steal it. And now, because the Stony Silence is gone, I can use the Mana Vault for what it was intended for. I'm busy doing this. And there's Amnesia, which takes out Stony Silence, Profane Tutor, and Teferi. I've never seen that photo before, or that picture before, actually. It's kind of cool. Again, it doesn't really look like a Magic card, but it is pretty cool, at least. It doesn't look like Eddie Murphy the way that some of the other Teferis do. All right. And with that said, I've got 1 more mana available. I'm just going to tap the Shivan Reef and grab a hold of Rafine. He's got no cards in hand. And yeah, he's still got this Hall of the Storm Giants. But I mean, what are the chances that that somehow goes to distance before I'm able to draw some kind of an answer? I can draw Fabricate. I can draw a Mystical Tutor into Fabricate to go get the Crucible of Worlds, and then the Crucible of Worlds will finish it off, and that will be the game. And he knows it, and so he packs it in. So I guess in retrospect, I mean, obviously, I was under some pressure, Stony Silence and playing stuff, but this game never really felt like it was spiraling out of control as some of the closest games with Nin can feel. But really nice kind of reintroduction to what Nin does and its overall game plan, which is just such a departure from the way that a deck like Minsc & Boo plays out. Have I even posted any videos of Minsc & Boo? I have that deck built and have been playing it quite a bit. I also have it built in paper, so maybe I'll do a deck tech for people who want a red-green thing. If people are out there watching this video right now and you're interested in seeing the deck tech for my Minsc & Boo deck, please do say so in the comments and I will produce a deck tech for it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope to have some more games if I can summon the energy and enthusiasm to play more, but it may be a little while before I decide to sit down and play enough games that will warrant a game of high quality and worthy of making a video. But thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys all later. Take care.